Today, we are going to have a brief introduction of the ATESS HPS30 150 system installation. The equipment should be installed indoor to avoid direct sunlight or rain. Keep ventilation clean at all times, and stay away from residential area. It is recommended to install in the power distribution room. Equipment should be installed on the flat ground where is solid and firm with flame retardant material surface or channel steel structure. At least 800 mm clearance must be kept around the equipment to ensure cool operation. Before the installation, below tools should be prepared. The technician must wear S3 shoes with 1000 volts insulation, electrician overalls, and a safety helmet. The product operates at high voltages. Installation must be performed by qualified licensed technician only. Before we start wiring, firstly let's review the system diagram. Please thoroughly read the user manual before installation. Open the cable's entry hole covers and pass all cables through. To ensure safety, turn off all the breakers and measure to ensure all system has zero potential. Disconnect power at the circuit breakers or disconnect switches to make sure all equipment is power off. Connect PV cables. Notice the positive and negative poles. Measure positive and negative of PV and make sure there is no ground fault on the PV side. Herein and in the following wiring operations, make sure you torque check the nuts after connecting all the cables. Connect cables of battery cabinet or battery rack to the breaker marked battery input. Measure the positive and negative of battery side. Connect grid cables to the breaker marked AC input. Pay attention to the phase sequence. Connect load cables to the breaker marked AC output. Also pay attention to the phase sequence. Connect the N cables of grid and load to the N bar of HPS. Connect the PE cables of grid and load to the PE bar of HPS. Check whether the cables are connected properly and securely. When HPS works with battery with BMS, CAN communication is needed. Use shielded double parallel or shielded twisted pair cables. Connect HPS CAN A to CAN communication interface of BMS. Pay attention to the H and L ends. Switch the red emergency stop button on the front door to unlock HPS. The button is generally pressed down before delivery. Turn on the breakers for battery and HPS and only turns on the battery breaker of HPS. Ensure that the other breakers are disconnected. To set the parameter, first of all we need to check the device software version. If there's no version information, it means HPS has not been programmed. Check the fault page information. If no fault detected, turn the black knob first, and then click the power button on the screen. When the device is to be started, ensure that the bypass breaker is off. After 60 seconds when system self-check is completed, check whether the output voltage is phase-to-phase 400 volts. After off-grid mode works well, turn the black knob to off. Turn on the grid breaker of HPS and then the external grid breaker. Check if the grid voltage displayed on the screen is correct. Turn the black knob first and then click the on button on the screen. Check if the running data on the home page is normal. Close the combiner box breaker. Use a multimeter to measure PV input for polarity, voltage level, and ground fault. Close the PV breaker of HPS. Set the charging current to verify whether PV can charge the battery. The bypass breaker must be disconnected when the HPS is running, and it can be closed only when the system is faulty and the system needs grid or generator to run the load. Observe whether the output voltages of the 3 phases are stable and balanced. If not, please contact ATESS. When the system needs to be connected to the grid and the generator simultaneously, ATESS is required. The function of ATESS is switching between grid and generator. ATESS has 3 breakers: grid breaker, HPS breaker, and generator breaker. Before connecting cables, ensure that the 3 breakers are disconnected. Connect the grid cables to the grid breaker of ATESS, the HPS output terminal of ATESS to the grid breaker of HPS, and the generator cables to the generator breaker of ATESS. Connect the N cables of grid and load to the N bar of HPS, and PE cable to the PE bar of HPS. Check if the wiring is correct and firm. Connect the HPS CAN B, notice H and L. Connect the ATESS to the power supply. Notice the positive and negative poles. Close the power supply breaker. Close the grid, HPS, and generator breaker of ATESS. Meanwhile, ensure that the external grid breaker is disconnected. Set the ATESS enable to 1 on the parameter page. The procedure for commissioning is the same as that for commissioning the HPS single unit. Power cable's connection of the parallel system is the same as that of a single unit. However, ensure that the cable specifications and lengths of the two HPS are the same. Please refer to our user manual for further details. Connect the battery CAN cables to number 1 HPS and connect battery CAN A cables to CAN A port of number 2 HPS. Distinguish H and L. Connect the parallel cable between HPS with DB9 communication cable. Connect CAN B of 2 ATESS. Distinguish H and L. Then do dip setting. Close the battery breakers of the 2 HPS and breaker of the battery system, and then power on the HPS screen. Configure the 2 HPS stations. Set number 1 HPS to 1, click Save, and number 2 HPS to 2, click Save. The setting value will be displayed in the upper right corner of the screen. Close the power breaker of the number 1 ATESS and disconnect the power breaker of the number 2 ATESS. Set the login password to login number 1 HPS. Set the number of ATESS to 2. Then set the ATESS communication station number to 1. Finally, set the ATESS communication enable to 1. Return to confirm the number 1 ATESS return address. Check whether the current value of the address is 1. If not, deliver the address again or check whether the communication cable is correctly connected. Disconnect the power breaker of the number 1 ATESS. Disconnect the power breaker of the number 2 ATESS. Set the login password to log in the number 2 HPS. Set the number of ATESS to 2. Then set the ATESS communication station number to 2. Finally, set the ATESS communication enable to 2. Connect the battery CAN port to the HPS CAN A with a shielded communication cable. Connect the parallel communication port of HPS with parallel cable. Return to confirm the number 2 ATESS return address. Check whether the current value of the address is 2. If not, deliver the address again or check whether the communication cable is correctly connected. After the address is delivered, close the power breaker of number 1 ATESS. Set basic parameters of HPS and battery. Parallel setting for number 1 HPS. Set parallel enable to 1, number of parallel machines to 2, parallel address to 1, and monitor parallel judgment mark to 1. Set parallel machine enable to 1, parallel machine number to 2, parallel address to 2, and monitor parallel judgment mark to 1. For the 2 HPS, ensure that only the PV breaker and battery breaker are closed, and the other breakers remain disconnected. Check the fault information page of the 2 HPS. If no fault information is displayed, run the 2 HPS. If there is a fault, contact ATESS. Turn the black switch knob to on and click the power button on the screen to run the 2 HPS. Compare the phases voltages in the 2 HPS data pages and check whether the voltage of each phase is different. If there is a large difference, contact our after-sales team. If the voltage difference is not large, close the load breakers of the 2 HPS. Compare the load power of the two HPS. If the power difference is large, please contact our after-sales team. Turn off the two HPS. Close all the breakers on the two ATESS. Note that the external grid breakers are disconnected, and do not start the generator. Close the AC input breakers of the two HPS. Close the external grid breakers. Turn on the switch knobs of the two HPS. Click the power button on the screen. The two HPS work well in on-grid mode. Disconnect the external grid breaker. The two HPS switch from on-grid mode to off-grid mode. Close the external grid breaker. Then the two HPS switch from off-grid mode to on-grid mode. So far, the whole installation and commissioning procedure is complete. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the ATESS Service Center or the local distributor.